Truth be told, I'm a reformer too. That's why I've spent the past decade making sure our party cannot ever again be perceived as having a thumb on the scale for one candidate. Let me explain. Ken. Your party wasn't perceived as having a thumb on the scale for one candidate. Your party rigged a primary in favor of Hillary Clinton, and then you did it again to the same candidate.
Hey, it's Jordan. I am in Flint, Michigan, East Palestine, Ohio, Tumwa, Iowa. Please support the only independent outlet on the ground covering what the corporate media covers up.
Hey, it's Ashley with Status Coup. While Bernie Sanders puts out a call for members of the working class to run for office, the DNC is trying to silence their token young person, David Hogg, while he tries to purge the party of neoliberal corporate Democrats, whom he says are asleep at the wheel. So first, the DNC. The most important rule of the Democrats is to never learn a thing, and they seem to be just as steadfastly holding on to that sentiment as they are to stepping aside for the rise of fascism. So David Hogg, the newly elected vice chair of the DNC, recently announced a new project called Leaders We Deserve, which will be spending $20 million to oust feckless corporate Democrats from their seats in favor of younger, more progressive candidates in the next primary elections. In a New York Times piece from April 15th on Hogg's new project of unseating politicians who have proven themselves to be the most ineffectual at following through with even the bare minimum of what working people deserve, Hogg said, "This is going to anger a lot of people," Mr. Hogg said. He predicted a smear campaign against me. This would aim to destroy my reputation and try to force me to stop doing this. People say they want change in the Democratic Party, but really, they want change so long as it doesn't potentially endanger their position of power, he said. That's not actually wanting change. That is selfishness. Yes. It is selfishness. I don't think that I fall in the same political camp as Hogg, but he's trying to do something more than just grandstanding here, unlike Booker's would-be filibuster. He's actually trying to give voters what they want, which is change, and leaders who will do something besides roll out a welcome mat for authoritarianism, because not Trump wasn't good enough before, and it is extra not good enough right now in this moment. So what was the Democrats' response to this? I'm going to read another piece from Politico. So this piece, DNC gives David Hogg an ultimatum. DNC Chair Ken Martin is expected to announce a proposal to require DNC officers to stay neutral in all Democratic parties. In all Democratic primaries. So cool. Yes. Neutrality. That is what people want when the person you called Hitler is now Hitlering all over the country. Staying neutral. Between this and the genocide in Gaza, liberals are really just trying to shout out what they would have been doing during World War II. They wanted Hitler, they got him, they had years to make plans, and this is what they came up with: neutrality and nothing. So in this piece, they write, "The Democratic National Committee is going to force David Hogg to decide, get out of the primary game or lose his DNC post." During a member call on Thursday, DNC Chair Ken Martin is expected to announce a proposal to change the party's rules to mandate all DNC officers stay neutral in all Democratic primaries, according to a person directly familiar with the plan and granted anonymity to describe private discussions. The move comes after Hogg pledged last week to spend millions of dollars funding challenges to asleep-at-the-wheel Democrats in primaries, igniting a firestorm inside the DNC. The proposal, if passed at the DNC's August meeting, would effectively force Hogg to decide whether to step away from his DNC vice chair position or wall himself off from the group he co-founded, Leaders We Deserve, which is pledged to spend $20 million on challenging Democratic incumbents in safe blue seats. It's an escalation in the fight between Hogg and other DNC leaders and House Democrats, many of whom were enraged by Hogg's announcement. Hogg, who rose to national prominence as a gun safety activist after he survived a school shooting in Parkland, Florida, said last week that he planned to back candidates who would challenge ineffective safe seat Democrats, but House members and Democratic leaders vented that he was touching off a circular fire squad inside the party. Like, what the fuck are they doing here? The DNC is doing everything that they can to simply never change because their donors and consultants simply do not want them to, and they themselves don't want to because the wealth that they can accrue maintaining the status quo is far more important to them than actually winning. Not that they want to do anything meaningful when they're actually in power anyway, but I certainly don't buy the line that they want to lose. They want to win, They just want to win while bringing in that sweet donor cash and tossing us a few crumbs here and there for our obedience. So here is another piece from Axios on the Democrats' reaction to David Hogg's new group. So again, a piece from Axios. House Democrats fume at David Hogg's plan to oust lawmakers. Why it matters. House Democrats told Axios that while Hogg is not targeting battleground district members, they believe he will divert attention and resources away from their races and the fight to retake the House. And one lawmaker says, "What a disappointment from leadership. I can think of a million better things to do with $20 million right now." Swing District Representative Hillary Schulten of Michigan, Democrat of Michigan, told Axios, so can I. I can also think of a million better things to do with $20 million. But none of you will let us do any of those things. So instead, Hogg is at least being pragmatic and trying to use it to vote you out so maybe we can do those better things. The next point is fighting Democrats might get likes online, but it's not what restores majorities, she added. These people are so fucking out of touch. It's not just people shit posting online. Have they been listening to any of the town halls that are being held across the country, especially the ones where there are Republicans chanting tax the rich? Clearly they're resigned to just not listening and acting like everyone is just a Bernie bro, again, shit posting online. The next point in this piece is another vulnerable House Democrat speaking on the condition of anonymity to offer candid thoughts about a top party official called the plan very counterproductive and counterintuitive and said it would sure be nice to have some of that financial support. Yes, indeed it would. So further down in the piece, what we're hearing. Democrats' anger boiled over in private this week, with several venting that Hogg is putting his own interests above those of the party. His own interests, what, like purging some of the gerontocracy, getting leaders in who might actually do something for working people? Hogg is not a leftist, he's progressive, but he's still a Democrat. He is still one of them. I mean, the way that they phrased this could not make it any more plain that they were hoping that his new post would kind of neuter him as a threat, that he would just shut up and follow the party line instead of, God forbid, trying to make the party better and doing something slightly more appealing to voters. The piece continues on. I think this is a mistake, said a second House Democrat who spoke anonymously. Now are people pissed? I don't know a single person who is happy about it. A third told Axios it seems inappropriate for a DNC vice chair to threaten sitting Dems. A fourth said they are totally dumbfounded that instead of focusing on winning, we're focusing inward in a circular fighting squad. Again, a circular fighting squad. He's trying to help them win, but they're proving themselves time and time again to be beyond saving. And it gets worse. I'm going to read from a piece in Time magazine. So this is written by Ken Martin, chair of the DNC and leader of the push for neutrality in the DNC, which definitely did not rig any primaries in favor of their preferred candidate at any point, and definitely did not back an 81-year-old who they apparently couldn't tell was way too fucking old to be driving, let alone running the country. So this is the piece. Voters should pick their candidates, not party bosses. Okay. Before I became chair of the Democratic National Committee, DNC, I spent my life working at every level of my party. My first boss was the late Senator Paul Wellstone, a progressive champion who took bold stances, like voting against the Iraq War, that angered a lot of powerful people. Very cool for you, Ken. We're all very happy. A lot of us young kids who worked for him back then were fiery. We wanted to burn down the institutions that maintained the status quo. I remember Paul told us you can be pissed off and you can be angry, but there's no institution that will change solely from the outside. You have to get in there and change it yourself. And Ken Martin has done just that. There's been a lot of talk lately about the role of the Democratic Party and what role the National Party should play in picking our general election candidates. Recently, a DNC vice chair announced an initiative to put their thumb on the scale in Democratic primaries. Let me explain why this is a mistake. Truth be told, I'm a reformer too. That's why I've spent the past decade making sure our party cannot ever again be perceived as having a thumb on the scale for one candidate, and also why, as DNC chair, I am determined to make sure we don't repeat the same errors of the past. Let me explain. Ken. Your party wasn't perceived as having a thumb on the scale for one candidate. Your party rigged a fucking primary in favor of Hillary Clinton, whom voters clearly did not like, just to keep someone out who threatened your bank accounts. And then you did it again to the same fucking candidate when it was abundantly clear that he had a real chance at winning on the merit of his ideas and the material things that he had to offer the working class. And what did you do, DNC? You circled the wagons around a geriatric Joe Biden and told us all that he could work with the other side and make sensible changes, unlike Bernie Sanders, who is way too radical and couldn't do that. Then, when his unforeseen old age apparently just crept up on everyone, he dropped out and left us with another candidate that voters had already said they didn't want, and who was unwilling to take the right position in our Vietnam War. And now we are here, and it fucking sucks here. This piece goes on to say, 8 years ago, the Democratic Party was at one of the lowest points in its history. I cannot imagine that this is not the lowest point, but okay. Not only did we fail to stop Donald Trump's election, but we had lost the faith of the Democratic voters. The DNC was besieged by accusations that it had favored one candidate over another during the presidential primary process. The controversy alienated even our party's most loyal supporters, who felt that party bosses, not Democratic primary voters, were deciding which candidate would emerge in the general election as the Democratic nominee. They threatened to leave the party for good. Yes, you lost the trust of your voters, and it has not returned. And I'm just going to skip ahead over all of this because it just doesn't matter. This isn't about one individual's perspective. It's about principle. It doesn't matter if you're a challenger or an incumbent. It doesn't matter if you're 18 or 80. Do I have a point of view? Of course, but as a DNC chair at the helm of the institution that calls the balls and strikes, which I have to say is a baseballism that needed to be explained to me the first time I read this, and is some truly awful fucking writing, that's not up to me to decide. You can't be both the player and the referee. Our job is clear-cut. Let voters vote, and once they've made their choice, to fight like hell to get that Democrat elected to office. This isn't a personal stand, it's a principled stand for something greater than any one of us, the integrity of our party's democratic process. Our role is to serve as stewards of a fair, open, and trusted process, not to tilt the scales. In the coming days, I'll introduce a new slate of structural reforms that codify these principles of neutrality and fairness into our party rules, requiring all party officers, myself included, to remain neutral in all Democratic primaries. A clear neutrality policy protects against the misuse or abuse of power by those in official positions. The Democratic Party's charter puts it best: a party which asks for the people's trust must prove that it trusts the people. And what should the party do when the people clearly do not trust them anymore? Seriously, fuck these people. It's not about principle, because if it was, they would be throwing every idea at the wall and trying to do fucking better, because what they've been doing is not fucking working. I will share with you a little bit of what Ken is actually doing right now. DNC Chair Ken Martin launches People's Cabinet to fiercely counter Trump administration chaos and lies. This is ridiculous. So this is from April 4th. Today, DNC Chair Ken Martin announced the launch of the People's Cabinet, a new project from the DNC that will leverage a deep bench of qualified policy experts, national and local leaders, as well as community voices who, all working together, will cut through the lies and speak directly to the American people about the reality of the Trump administration's reckless and dangerous agenda. While Donald Trump stacks his administration with out-of-touch billionaires, Fox News hosts, conspiracy theorists, and unqualified loyalists, the People's Cabinet will provide the American people with real facts and accurate information about the devastating impact of Trump's agenda for working families. The People's Cabinet will include a wide array of national, state, and local experts on the economy, healthcare, working families and communities, public safety, national security, and foreign policy. I've been traveling across the country nonstop since I started this job, and what I hear over and over is that Americans want us to challenge Trump's unimpeded lies, confront his reckless agenda, and offer a better alternative, said DNC Chair Ken Martin. Trump has stacked his cabinet with out-of-touch billionaires and know-nothing loyalists who are wreaking havoc on the lives of working people across this country with total disregard for the harm they're causing our families, from stripping away their health care to jacking up the cost at the grocery store to putting the lives of service members at risk. The People's Cabinet is made up of experts, leaders, and everyday Americans from across the country who will equip communities with the reliable, accurate information they need to fight back against the worst of Trump and the Republican agenda. Oh my fucking God. They will go through every single permutation of they just don't understand our messaging before changing a fucking thing. People don't fucking care anymore about the meaningless words that the Democrats throw at them because they are no longer tied to any kind of action. Nobody wants to hear, well, actually, well, programs that have kept vulnerable people in housing are being shut down and we're no longer doing safety checks on milk, while those of us who are not currently being disappeared are just here getting measles. Working people, which I have to say, I absolutely fucking hate when people like that use the term working people as if they understand what it means to be a working person. But anyway, working people are asking you, Democrats, to stand up to Trump and his cronies and offer something actually material. This isn't a time for fact-checking. It's a time to actually fight and make some kind of bold moves and prove to the American people that you can actually fucking do it. But they're not going to, because that's not what the Democrats do. Meanwhile, in an email sent out yesterday, Bernie Sanders put out a call for working people to run for office and is offering resources to actually help. So here is a screenshot of the email. So it starts off, sisters and brothers, so just imagine me reading this in a Bernie voice, which I can't do. We are living in an unprecedented moment in modern American history. Under the Trump administration, we are witnessing oligarchs taking over our government, a rapid movement towards authoritarianism, blatant kleptocracy, and a massive attack on programs that working people desperately need, such as Medicaid, Social Security, the Veterans Administration, housing, and nutrition. As we determine all the best ways to fight back, one thing is certain: now is not the time for thinking small. Now is not the time to rely on the same old ideas, the same old politics, the same old establishment politicians. Now is the time for people across the country to go outside of their comfort zone and do the hard work necessary to revitalize American democracy, end the collapse of the American middle class, and to make certain that our children and grandchildren are able to enjoy a quality of life that brings them health, prosperity, security, and joy. Today, I am writing you to go outside of your comfort zone. I am writing you to ask to run for office. Yes, you. We need people in every state, county, and town in this country to raise their hand and say they are prepared to run for city council, school board, mayor, state legislator, Congress, and more. We need to elect progressives at every level in this country who are prepared to side with the working class in America and fight for an economy and government that works for us all, not just the few. When I talk about the need for a political revolution to transform this country, a lot of pundits believe that this is an acknowledgement of impossibility. It's not. It's a statement of what is necessary to undo the damage that has been done and to reclaim our country from the oligarchs. It is the need for millions of working people, Black and white, Latino and Native American, gay and straight, to come together to revitalize American democracy. Let's be clear, the ruling class of this country understands this point very well. They fully understand the implications of expanded participation by working people in the electoral and political process. That is precisely why they work so hard in so many ways to prevent it from happening. That is their nightmare. Their goal is to constantly remind you that they have all the power. They control the government and the economy. They own the media. You want to take us on? Good luck, they'll say. There's nothing you can do about it. That mindset of powerlessness is what we have to break through. As Nelson Mandela perceptively stated, it always seems impossible until it is done. Well, we have to do it because there's no one out there who can do it for us. We're all we've got. We're all in this together. And then there is a link at the bottom that you can follow if you are interested in running for office and are looking for the resources that they have to offer. Bernie isn't perfect, but yes to all of that. And it makes me feel all the more that I think we should view him as an entry point into left politics, as he has been for so many people who are now firmly on the left. And note that he has not specified that he thinks people should run as Democrats, that was not part of this call to action or call to run for office. I think that this is a net good. I definitely don't think that electoralism is the primary driver of change in this country, but it's definitely a part of it. And having more working people in office standing up for things like Medicare for All, which is currently being reintroduced in Congress by none other than Bernie Sanders, and fighting against our current sorry state of affairs doesn't hurt, as long as we don't forget that it's only a small part of what we need to be doing right now. So thank you for watching. If you like this video, please do consider becoming a paid member of Status Coup for as little as $5 a month so we can keep bringing you reporting like this. And you can sign up at statuscoup.com/join, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.